Hi guys, and welcome to another video here on the Ollyarto gaming channel here on YouTube. Sorry it's been a little while since my last uploads. FM I've kind of stopped playing for a little while and was planning to come back into it eventually, and that's what I've done in the last month or so. But in the meantime, a couple of my videos that I've done on YouTube have done really well, particularly the lower league tips and tricks video, which is just doing crazy numbers. And thank you so much for all the subscribers and all the likes. We've smashed past 100 subs already, which is fantastic and really great. And it really does help encourage myself and other small time content creators on YouTube to produce videos and things like that. So hopefully today's video is going to be of use as well. It's a bit more of a niche kind of save idea, but basically it's one I've been trying, and it's one that a few other content creators have done themselves. Particularly Second Yellow Card is someone who does a lot of the Build a Nation saves. And that's what I've been doing in my latest one with San Marino. I've basically taken over a side in San Marino. Uh, when you start out, unfortunately, I haven't put different save points through the save game at the moment because we are in, I'll tell you in a minute, 2028. So we're just completed the 5th season. So I haven't got little stopgaps to kind of give you a season update progress of what's gone on in my save. But I can basically show you where we're up to. We are manager of Juves Dogna, I think is how you pronounce it. In the first season, you are all, let's just go back, put it into the league. You are all amateur teams. So basically, this is pretty much the worst league you could go in, and obviously taking over pretty much the worst nation as well. So internationally wise, we haven't done too much, but I'll tell you about the process and things like that. So anyway, first season we miss out on the title by 4 points. It's just basically, if you've seen the lower league tips and tricks video, it was just picking up players you could find. Italy's obviously a great place to scout, but at this point we've got no money or anything like that really to help progress the club and help expand the scouting range and things like that. But first season in European football and winning the league quite comfortably as well here. We were getting knocked out in the qualifying rounds. I think this season we got knocked out of the Europa and then the Conference League knockouts, but we got a little bit of money. And we used that, and I'll go into how we spent the money in a sec. So then the next season, we go into the Champions League phase, get knocked out of that, drop down. But basically, we ended up in the Conference League proper, which was really, really phenomenal progress. And with the money you get from participating in Champions League and Europa, it's actually a kind of a triple whammy. So we got loads of money for that, and this was the first season of being properly pro. So we did really well because, as I said, we start as an amateur club in the first division. Sorry, the first season. We go to semi-pro, but with very little money. But basically, we could tie players down to contracts and stuff like that. And then we managed to actually go pro with the money that we generated from the European football for this season. None of the other teams have gone pro. A couple are semi-pro, but they haven't got much of a transfer kitty because they're not really progressing in Europe, unfortunately, which is obviously where the money comes in. And then this is the 4th season, and then this is the 5th season. So we're basically winning the league pretty easy, and we're doing well. We've gone into the Conference League 3 times, pardon me, and earn a lot of money. So basically, in the finances, we're doing pretty well. The massive change that we've managed to achieve is our facilities. So we are looking for a new stadium, which is great because we've got 500 capacity. And basically, we've been constantly going to the club vision and making requests to improve facilities. Oh, okay, that is just literally popped up, so we're going to do that. So this is obviously where the money's coming into, and the reason why we're focusing so much on the youth side is because we're obviously the national team, and we want to improve the national team players. Now, in San Marino, you need to be in the country for 5 years, but also, obviously you can't have played for another a country or anything like that. So there's two ways to do this save. You can just do it just purely in the club side, and the reason why I've done the national is because it actually makes you look at players slightly differently, that they come up into your scouting reports. Um, so we haven't spent any money on transfer fees or anything like that. We've basically just put all the money back into the facilities and stuff like that to eventually get the ball rolling with getting better youth players. So these are the recommended players, and I'll go through players for my parameters. Are the ones that you want to pick up, and then obviously others that you don't. So you got people like this. Obviously, Italy's a big catchment pool. Italy and Spain have been fantastic for us and stuff like that. So typically, you look at young players and you go, okay, this guy is pretty good. He's an improvement of what we got and things like that. But what you want to be looking at is, can you hold him in your club for 5 years? And then hope that he switches his allegiance to San Marino's. And obviously, European competition, you need players that are homegrown in nation and trained by the clubs and stuff like that. So if you've got a restriction like that, you really need to consider, the age profile of players they buy. Now, most FM saves is young players develop and stuff like that. It's not too dissimilar. But what you want to consider when you're doing the nation, like I am, is he's Ghanaian. How likely is he? He's capped under 23 at 19 years old. Now, how likely would he declare for Ghana or actually get called up by Ghana? Because obviously you'd have to develop him for 5 years and hope Ghana don't basically tap him up and, well, not tap him up, but call him up and obviously give him a cap, which would basically mean that the time invested for the national side of things would have been not so fruitful. So if you look at other players, like obviously Italian, the quality that you require to play for the national team in Italy is far higher. So he is very unlikely to ever get an Italian cap. But he is at Napoli. But he would be a nice little pickup. Now he's 20 years old, so obviously you wouldn't get him to the national team before 25. But he is very good, and he's straight away good enough to play for your team. I don't think he'd actually be interested in joining us. No. So we'll move on to the next one. So again, Italian, he's not going to be good enough to play for Italy. He would be a nice little pickup and things like that. Again, from the national team point of view. And obviously, he's a young lad, so you can train him up and he'll help with your quota for Europe and things like that. A lot of these are Italians and stuff like that. Let's go on to somebody else. So this is someone else now. He's 24, but also he's had 2 caps for Slovenia. So, you can't use him for the national team or anything like that. He is a very good player, though. And he is somebody that you could definitely turn on for a profit. Now, the only problem is with nations like San Marino is because the reputation is so low, the value of players is really quite low as well. So if you can look here, 200,000 is the highest value, and that's obviously the highest range of the highest value player you've got there. So if these players were playing in, say, the Premier League, there would be millions, millions, and millions. Now, obviously, they're not quite good enough to play in the Premier League, but they're not far off, being good enough for, some top leagues in Europe where the transfer value would be infinitely higher. So to get the ball rolling with the Builder Nations, you really need to rely on income from European competition rather than transfers and flipping players and things like that. So players for the short-term gain aren't necessarily a bad thing. So, players like this winger here would be a good pickup because he's going to help you achieve your aims and things like that. And then, in a couple of years' time, hopefully he'll be worth 200 or 300k, depending on the reputation of the league, which is pretty much down to you. The other teams in our league aren't doing fantastically well. But you got players like this that are very good, but he's 23 already, so he's going to be 28 by the time that you can pick him for your national team. So we have pretty much been relying on 18, 19-year-olds from Italy and Spain who are good enough to go into the starting lineup, but will very unlikely ever develop to be good enough to play for the national team. Players like this, obviously 31, he's no good. I'd only pick up these if you're trying to get into, Europe or trying to get further in Europe. Now, Patrick Coutone, he is a very good player. You will get players like this will pop up who are just infinitely better than everybody else. It's not, again, not a bad thing because the European thing is where the money is, and you need to really invest it into the infrastructure, particularly youth facilities and things like that, because then that's going to help with the national team, massively. And obviously, if you generate players within the game, within the youth setups and the youth intakes, which our youth intakes have been really rubbish so far, but we are working our way up in that respect. But obviously, if you generate those young players, then that's an instant, straight away off the bat, ready to play for you, rather than these long-term investments, which is obviously for San Marino, it's 5 years. Other countries are slightly shorter. So, if you decide to do a build a nation, you go for a different country than San Marino. Do check on how long it takes for them to apply for basically citizenship, but obviously it will help you register him for the national team. So yeah, so that's basically what we've been doing, is picking up 18, 19-year-olds from, Spain and things like that. We've got a couple of players from different nations and stuff like that. We are coming up to 5 years of the first wave of transfers that we made. So we got players like this guy. He's 4 seasons ahead of behind him. He is much better than our crop of left backs that we can choose for San Marino. So obviously, once we can declare him, he's never going to play for Italy. So he should accept and declare, and then he's going to be a very good left back for 5, 6 years for us. And in that time, hopefully, you've generated youngsters that will be better than him. Or you start the process again and go, right, okay, let's buy a left back this summer who's much better than him, and you work on the next 5 years and stuff like that. So what you need to do with players like this that are maybe a year to go, they're not really adding anything to your squad or anything like that, or your team, but you need to keep them in the country. So what you can do is, I'll do it on this guy. He is leaving. Again, this is another guy. He's been with us 3 seasons. He's actually got good average ratings. He's just not going to get games for the club. But he would be fantastic for the national team. So what you want to do is offer them to clubs. Now you want to offer 0 transfer fee, but what you can do is on the targets you would exclude foreign clubs. So this is just going to offer this guy to every other club in the domestic league. Now obviously what that means is that he stays in the country and he carries on with working towards the 5 years requirement of being in the country to potentially qualify for the national team. So if you are getting rid of players like that, keep that in mind, that if they've not quite qualified but they're very near, then offer them to all the domestic clubs. But also what that'll do as well is it'll help improve the clubs in your league, and if a couple of them can just get past, a further round or two into Europe, it really helps with the coefficient. But it also means that they'll go further in the competition, they'll generate more money themselves, they'll be able to buy better players or, improve the infrastructure of the youth side, hopefully, which obviously would benefit you as the national manager. But what it does is improves the reputation of the league, which again means that you'll be able to attract better players and things like that. So everyone kind of wins on that sort of front. So make sure you do that. The other thing as well is if you've got players that are important for the national team, but aren't going to be of use for your team. So say, if a couple of Samarisian guys down here, the club side's much better than the national team at the moment. So they are actually like 3 or 4 star current ability players for the national team. What we'll find is if you let their contract expire, this guy's got plenty of time. I think this guy's at the end of the season. He's probably not going to renew. He's done all right for him, but again, he's just never going to play. But if you let him go on a free transfer and he doesn't get picked up by a club within a couple of months, there's no set time, but you will find players do retire if they've not got a club for a little while. Sometimes it'll take a year. Sometimes I've known them for literally 3 or 4 weeks. They'll just retire off the bat. So what you want to make sure is every player that's of importance to you is with a club. So put them on a short list, maybe offer trials, try and interact to generate interest from other clubs. And if you have to, pick them up and put them at the club. There's quite a few players we have here who these two are a prime example where we've given them a contract. This guy as well, we gave him a contract because he was out without a club for a little while, and I was concerned that the game would just make him retire and things like that. Now, obviously, what you can do is try and loan them out and things like that, which is something we tried without much success. But I'm hoping a couple more clubs are going to be semi-pro and a little bit higher reputation, and the players would be interested in playing for them. So just make sure you keep that in mind that players can retire, when they're on a free. But also keep in mind, keep an eye on in your national pool. So we have a couple of players here that are the best players for us. They play in Italy. This guy is having his contract expired at the end of the season. So obviously put those players on your shortlist so you get every update about them, and if they've been transfer listed or the transfer offers coming in for them. And then obviously if you have to step in, step in. The other thing to consider as well is because of us being full-time and everyone else in the league is part-time or amateur, and we've obviously improved our training facilities, is that if you've got good young players, pick them up. I try not to sign players from domestic clubs to weaken them because I want to do the complete opposite. However, if there is a really good young player, if they're at an amateur club, they're not really getting much training or much progression. If they're playing games, then they'll develop a little bit. But obviously, if you've got better coaches, you're on full-time schedule and things like that, and obviously better facilities, then they're going to maximize their potential and things like that as well. So do keep in mind. So you got this guy, he actually generated for us. I'm going to just try and find a little example of somebody. So you got this guy here, 16. He's a youngster. I'm not sure. That's obviously you have to remember the staff. Judging potential isn't great. So looking at his current, I would say he's very unlikely to really develop. Let's see if we can find someone else. Got him on a shortlist. He's at San Marino Academy. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure, but we'll just go for this guy for example. So as you can see, youngster contract, no pounds per week. He is playing a few games. He's not done much, but he's only 16. So I'm gonna just kind of keep an eye on him and see how he gets on and stuff like that. Is there anyone else here? Oh, he's got good physicals, but his mentals is terrible. So yeah, so trying not to weaken the other sides by signing, all the good players and things like that. But obviously, the really good young players. Oh, this guy's 15. He's on a free transfer. So someone has released him. I wonder who. Doesn't say. Um, as you can see, he's 15 years old. He's, you're taking a bit of a punt on him, but you've got to remember he doesn't have to improve that much to be, um, good enough for the national team. So what I'm going to do is actually put him on a breakthrough prospect, which is basically a full-time deal, which means he's going to train full-time, and put him on a full-time contract there. £90, great stuff. So he's going to train full-time now with us, and hopefully get somewhere near that potential and things like that. So this is obviously a menu for the national team portion of the game. So it's good to just keep a tab on these things and stuff like that. And just see where we're going. In terms of the national team, we've not really done much so far. We get battered. We're just, pretty woeful in terms of our team, as you can see here. So, oh, that guy's a 2-star now, is he? So he's like a 1.5 star, I think, in our team. He's like 2-star. So, if our club side played a national team, the club side would batter him basically. Apart from a couple of these nice players here that are doing okay. So the plan is at the moment to keep generating the money, keep going to the board and keep requesting, improve the network, get an affiliate club to try and poach more youngsters and stuff like that, and then just keep asking for all these little improvements. We were very lucky, I guess, to go from amateur to full-time in 2 seasons. I've not done an amateur club for a long time in FM, and I was assuming that it'd be really difficult to progress from that, but actually it seemed to be quite easy. But the big thing is it's just the European money. If you can win the league, you basically get, I'll show you on the schedule. So you start in the Champions League. So once you get, I think you have to go to the second qualifying round, then you drop down to Europa. So basically, it means that, and you can check on the rules in the competition. Basically, if you go rules, it will tell you, um, you know, losers qualify, winners qualify for the playoff and stuff like that. So if you can drop down between, well, obviously great to qualify for the Champions League proper, but if you can drop down to the pardon me, the Conference League, which is what we did here, because we lost the final playoff, which was quite unfortunate. You just get as much money as you can realistically can for a very little outlay. Our wage budget is 8,000 a week, which is for a team in European competition is microscopic basically, but it just means that all the money that you generate, I wonder if it will tell you over this season. So if we look at prize money, 3.5 million, nearly 3 million from the Champions League, 340 from the Europa for participating in the knockout rounds, 170 from the Champions League. So as you can see, loads of money. We did actually get to the knockout round of the Conference League last season, so that's why we got a bit more last season. But as you can see, for a team of our size, over the 2 seasons, we've generated over £8 million, which we've put, like I said, back into the facility. So if you look at our facilities here, this was all just rubbish, rubbish. Now, the fact we got exceptional academy coaching, excellent youth rating, which is obviously what we're focused on. Um, we've just asked for better training facilities, so fingers crossed, and they are looking for a new stadium. Um, the one thing you have to remember is FM does know that San Marino is a tiny, tiny country, and it's very hard for them to produce um, good youngsters. Obviously, population of not even 34,000 people. Um, but it is a good fun save. It does make you look at players differently because typically you would look at someone like, this guy here and go, yep, he's great, straight in, stopgap, whatever. Um, do the 18, 19 year olds and stuff like that, and then look to sell them on. Um, but like I said, you don't really get much money for players in this. Patrick Katerian is another one. He's, a very good player for now, but you think of the long term and try and sign as many domestic players. So, like, we've got so many San Marizzian players at the club that I wouldn't have normally signed. Obviously, Europe is a bit of an issue with the registration, stuff like that, which we are, again, working towards. But mainly it's getting players to be eligible for the national team, really, and then ultimately building them up. With the club side, the day-to-day domestic league is pretty easy at this point. But it also makes you interact differently with the domestic clubs. So typically, you want to, if this was a normal save, you would be signing the better players from the other clubs, even if they're not, going to improve your team. You might go, okay, that star right back for them would just be a backup for us, but it weakens them and makes us a little bit stronger. But obviously, in this, you almost want to go, here's our backup right back. He's not going to get game time for us, but he's going to make you better, and it's going to make it tougher to beat you and tougher to win the league. But obviously, you're trying to raise the standard of the nation, basically. So if you've played FM for a long time and looking for a long-term save to sink your teeth into, I think Builder Nations are fantastic. Like I said, this is my first real crack at it. I have gone San Marino and a club in San Marino. You can actually go the San Marino club side that plays in the Italian pyramid, so it gives you a bit more of a challenge in domestic front. So that's a good one. There's also FC Andorra, which obviously you can raise the profile of the Andorran national team, but play in the Spanish pyramid. And Spain's been great for picking up youngsters for us and developing them and hopefully getting them to represent the national team and stuff like that. But obviously, the ultimate aim is to generate as much money as we can, put it into the infrastructure, and then try and raise the standard of the league. And once the other teams start, getting into Europe and progressing a little bit, then hopefully they'll follow suit, and we can loan them players and make them stronger and stuff like that. But you can go even mid-team. So I was looking at other possibilities. I think Finland was the highest ranked European side that hadn't been to like a major finals ever in the history. I could be wrong, but I remember them standing out as quite an interesting, but like mid-tier. So you're not starting at the very low. Um, I've done this save that I'm going to probably play for the next couple of years. Obviously, you don't know what the new FM is going to be like, so this one would be good to keep coming back and stuff like that, and seeing how you go. And obviously, getting them to the Euros is probably the as good as it could possibly get, really. But obviously, just having a bit of fun with this and just a different way of approaching the save. So yeah, basically, it's just generate money, improve your infrastructure, not spending money on transfer fees, not buying mercenaries, buying good young players that hopefully will stay in the country, um, declare for the national team, and then make them better. But obviously, with the improvement of your youth facilities and your training facilities, you'll actually generate actual Samarisian people to be good enough to play for the national team and things like that, and then hopefully get them to get promoted from the Nations League or something like that, would be fantastic and stuff like that. So Yeah, so that's basically, I've rambled on long enough now. That's all kind of the main tips and tricks that I can really suggest to you that are unique to this sort of save. Obviously, I've done quite a few videos on, scouting and things like that. And obviously, we're starting at a lower, very lower league level, so they all apply. Um, but yeah, hopefully, this has given you some insight, some tips and tricks. Obviously, if you're trying one, do let me know in the comments. Keep us updated on your progress, and obviously any questions, do let me know. And for this video, that's it. So thanks for tuning in again. We'll see you in the next one.